An animated roaring version of the Reachability Lion logo is shown. In April of 2022, Halifax advocate and activist Milena Khazanavicius took us on a tour of her neighborhood to show us some of the built environment obstacles faced by people with low or no vision. Milena, who is blind, navigates her neighborhood with her guide dog, Lewis, and occasionally also uses a white cane.
For us.
A woman with long dark hair and a friendly smile talks with two people off camera.
So my name is Milena Khazanavicius.
She is standing in front of an apartment building.
Over here. Yeah, that's perfect.
My name is Milena Khazanavicius. Say that.
I was going to say, I was like, we practiced and we both got it real wrong.
I don't even attempt it. I'm like, Milena. That'll do.
As long as you get the first name, I don't care
I'm
about
very
the
glad we're all informed.
Yeah.
Which took 13 years to get automated pedestrian signals in.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah. And none of the crossings, well, they are straight, but not. In particular, to cross Windsor.
Okay.
It's on a diagonal.
Yeah.
And if you're a white cane user, it's, really difficult to keep a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And the traffic, I call it the snake pit because it just sounds like a bunch of, the roads are going in all directions. You really can't focus on traffic. Okay. Anyway, 13 years to get the automated pedestrian signals in, which now help to locate where you're going. And then from there, we'll travel up to the Superstore, where they had the whole entire sidewalk barricaded. And that took 3 months to rectify. And it's rectified now, where they did actually, I give them a 95 out of 100. So they put in a protected pedestrian lane.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually has a ramp for someone who uses a wheelchair. And cane detectable, what do you call them, kick plates on the bottom.
Oh, you'll have to show us those.
Yeah. So then we can walk through there. And the other, and then the third point on there will be just passing the Superstore, which is the biggest pet peeve of mine, where accidents happen. There's absolutely nothing to indicate that you're crossing a pretty busy, what do you call it, driveway.
Oh,
which
the
is a parking
entrance
lot?
there?
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And people are looking to the left to make that right, and they don't see you coming, and because you don't stop, particularly if you're with a dog guide, because there's nothing to stop the dog. There's no grade, there's no lip, there's nothing. I've had my dog hit, and then from there we'll just we'll walk over and cross back over to the Florence side.
Sure.
And in there, it's one of the buildings, and I'd say within my neighborhood here, with the entrance systems, there's about, within 20 block radius, there's about 6 or 7 buildings that have a tactile entrance system that does not talk. There's no large font. There's nothing. So if I'm to come and visit, I would not be able to tell you I'm down there because there's no way for me to tell where the buttons are or how to call you up.
All right.
Unless I call the cell phone, but then you still have to come down and let me in. And this is happening exponentially with all the new buildings that are going up. The good point is, my landlord in this building, so he just changed our intercom system to a new one upgraded, and I said, don't you dare put in the touch screen. Well, he hates touch screens, so he didn't. And it's still a tactile, like a dial push button entrance system, which is great.
Awesome.
So that's the one block.
Milena walks down the sidewalk arm in arm with a young woman, Krista, from Reachability. They are guided by Milena's guide dog, a German Shepherd named Louie.
That's what we need, really. So we're going down to the intersection.
Yeah, we're going to hang a left. Yeah.
All right, we're going left. We're going to cross.
Milena, Krista, and Lewis all cross the street carefully.
We're going up.
Yeah.
At a busy intersection, Milena, Krista, and Lewis all wait for the guided crossing light and signal to change.
There was one behind me to do another crossing.
Yeah.
Which I don't do that crossing because it's kind of jig-jag.
Yeah, it's the diagonal one.
Yeah. So here we go. This is the cuckoo north and south. Lewis forward. Okay. Going. Now we can pick up, we can hear the locator indicator. And here's my favorite crossing, because this is in a complete diagonal.
Okay.
And I've had 3 dog guides, and it took all 3 of them numerous trainings to cross as good. And if you're a white cane user, you would be crossing straight. There's our sign. Going straight, Lily. Straight. Boy. There you go. And here's the indicator. Good boy.
So this one's
on the other side. Yeah, this one is a bit louder. So imagine trying to do that when these indicators weren't here, and the traffic is, like I said, it's on, you know, on this weird snake-like diagonal. So it's really difficult with your white cane to do any safe crossing. Now that we have the APSs after 13 years, it's a great way. It's a great safety feature. And I'll go back to about the lack of equity that you, Krista, if you, as you mentioned when we were at the initial crosswalk,
Yes.
You said that the walk sign was on. Because you don't have to touch it. They're just, the walk signs are now so that they automatically go when the traffic is flowing.
Mm-hmm.
So as a sight-enabled person, it's there. It's also great for someone, let's say, they're quadriplegic and a wheelchair user, so they don't have to push any buttons.
Yeah.
But those of us who are blind and partially sighted still have to push a button to get the locator indicators.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they've done that is to accommodate the noise levels for sighted people who say they can't sleep with all the cuckoos and the chirpers.
Oh, of course, yes.
I won't comment on that part. But you can see my face.
Milena makes a face away from the camera.
So now we're on Windsor Yonge. We're gonna loop around the corner to Yonge Street, and we're gonna be approaching a construction site zone. Let's go hop forward.
Right.
Let's go hop hop. And so when you're, for example, if I'm on the sidewalk here,
Milena indicates the
my cane
curb
dropped
with
off,
her cane.
so that's off the curb, and that would be the street.
Yes.
If there was the grass line where we were coming down, you could called shorelining, and then you would know, and then when there was a break in the grass, then that would indicate that you're crossing a driveway. So for the white cane user, it's great that you have that divider between curb and sidewalk, and there's something indicated there. So when you're coming up onto a sidewalk, and I'll show you that example a little further up ahead, that it's better for the white cane user.
Great.
As far as dog guides, that's a whole other...
That's another trick.
Well, because it's a different way of traveling.
You follow the line of the sidewalk. Is that what a dog guide does?
They follow the edges of sidewalks.
Or sorry, the line of the crosswalk is what I meant.
It's because he's been taught to do that.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, he was kind of going straight across.
Is that because of those diagonal crosswalks?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Milena and Lewis approach
And I'm
a
proud of
wooden
these
temporary
construction
sidewalk
officers.
in front of the construction zone.
They were all apologetic, and they were, once they were informed that this is a problem, they put it all together within a weekend. Okay, so my guide dog has indicated, Lewis has indicated that we're moving to the right. I've stepped onto a ramp. I'm going to back up a little bit.
Yep.
And Blake, if you can see.
Hey, say, Milena, do you mind if I come around in front of you here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've got this where I can put my hand, and what I'm pertaining to this is it's almost like
Milena indicates a wooden railing.
A railing.
a railing. Thank you. And I got an English literature degree from Dal.
Sometimes the words get
So,
lost.
so it's a railing so that if somebody needs a little support, it's great. I'm going to show you what I was talking about earlier. If you were a white cane user, you would have come down the sidewalk and you would have actually hit the barriers here, your cane would have hit right at the bottom of the sidewalk. It wouldn't have gone under anything because a lot of construction sites have linked fencing where your cane gets stuck. Okay. If your white cane went through, there was nothing to stop your white cane, you'd probably end up hitting your belly as someone who is blind or partially sighted. And some white cane users travel really fast, and it hurts. So I'm gonna put my white cane in my hand. Lewis, let's go forward. We have a ramp here for a wheelchair user. If you're a white cane user, you hit what is called the Jersey border, the cement barriers. This is phenomenal. This is probably not wide enough to get 2 wheelchairs through, but we can't win everything. So we got it. Okay, Lewis, let's go forward.
Milena and Lewis continue between the concrete barrier and wooden railing.
Come on, Lewis, up. Lewis, up.
He's on his best behavior today, bro.
Yeah. He's almost in retirement. So we're going down here.
Milena and Lewis approach a busy driveway occupied by a large freight truck.
That's a good boy. Up a ramp. We're going up a ramp out of the pedestrian zone.
They come to a stop very close to the moving truck.
We'll stop here because I'll tell you about what's happening. When this construction site started, this temporary pedestrian walkway was not here. And you hear all the traffic on Yonge Street, which is all the traffic now. There were mothers with strollers. There were elderly people. Everybody was just walking on the road with the traffic, including the buses, including everything. And yes, we can blame the pedestrians for not thinking, but it is the responsibility of the city and the developer to ensure safety of all users who are pedestrians. And that's why I'm pretty proud of this. This is a construction being done by Lindsay.
They're doing a great job.
They jumped on the ball as soon as they found out. The reason it took 3.5 months is because we had to go through a bunch of red tape.
But it wasn't their fault.
No, they had put their, as I said, CMP, the construction mitigation plan.
Yeah.
It was signed off by HRM staff who, in a rush. I mean, they have 50 projects every day that are coming through, and so it is difficult for them. And I'll go back where I started, way back when, that the city councillors are also permitting, developments to be built right up to the sidewalk, which means there is no longer, let's say, 5 feet of grass anymore. So when you're permitted to put a building with, retail space right at the sidewalk, where is the developer supposed to do their job and not interfere on the sidewalk? Ultimately, I'd rather not have this pedestrian temporary access. I'd rather have my sidewalk.
Yeah.
But again, we're not going to win everything, and people need to live somewhere.
True.
Affordable housing is a whole other story.
Yeah.
Come back to me.
Let's not even get there.
No.
All right.
All right, Lewis, let's go forward. So now we're going to go to this. We're going to pretend we're going to my favorite store, the NSLC.
Milena, Krista, and Lewis cross the busy
If
driveway.
I was a white cane user, I could trail the grass line.
Milena taps the grass median with her white cane.
At some point, there will be a break.
Milena, Krista, and Lewis pause at the corner of the busy driveway.
Lewis indicated for me that I believe we're in the driveway.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Let's back up a little bit.
Should we let people pass, like drivers pass?
Yeah.
Just saying, let them know.
So, because I've trained Lewis, and he's used to me taking the left.
Going to the NSLC?
Yes. You will notice though, there's absolutely no dip, no lip, no grade to indicate that you are crossing a pretty significant driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a white cane user, your cane would no longer touch the grass line, and that would indicate to you that you are crossing something. When you're a dog guide user, initially in the first couple of times, Lewis would be just flying right through, and you have to learn to indicate a left to the dog guide that you want to go into that driveway. But if you look in the driveway, and this is the third point of this whole first portion, there's absolutely no sidewalk. There's no safe sidewalk to get you to the intersection or to the superstore or to anything like that. And this is a building that was Big Brothered in earlier. It is Loblaws property, and therefore they can do what they want within that parking lot. Why they don't acquiesce to putting in the sidewalk, because this neighborhood in particular has a lot of elderly people, young families with kids. What would be the best? What would happen here is if there was actually some tactile marker to indicate.
Okay. Like before a crosswalk.
Yeah, like before a crosswalk.
Okay.
If there would be a curve down rather than straight across. Yeah. And I will tell you, Krista, if you want to close your eyes.
Okay.
With the construction and the traffic on your right on Yonge Street, you tell me when you can hear a car on your left. I'm not going to tell you because I don't can't hear it.
I would never be able to.
Right?
I don't have very good hearing anyway.
No. So you can't hear that traffic at all.
Over.
I'm going to put my cane in.
Okay.
You can ask me questions. I'm going to get you to guide me over to. We'll go up to Ken's Road.
Milena tucks away her white cane and proceeds arm in arm across the driveway with Krista.
To the other side. Okay. And then we'll go into the building across the way, but we won't see the name because I don't want to. This isn't just the one for, problem.
Yeah.
Again, crossing a driveway.
Yes.
Wouldn't be able to tell you because there's nothing to indicate under my feet.
Yeah, there's not even the grass on the other side,
right
next to the road.
Right. So, that's problematic.
Krista presses the assisted crossing button at another busy intersection.
That's going east-west.
How do you know that?
Do not put this in because it says go yourself. Don't put that in.
Can I put it in if I bleep you?
Yeah. if we censor it, can we add it?
Sure. So when it's a north and south crossing, it does cuckoo, cuckoo.
Oh.
And that was from days long ago. I don't know who came up with that. So cuckoo has the O's, and north and south have an O. And see?
That's
cuckoo.
us now.
There's a north and
I
south.
see that.
The other one that they call it the Canadian melody. I don't know why they call it that because it used to be a cheep 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 like a bird. I'm gonna hang right. And I guess certain individuals said it sounded too much like a bird. I don't know what that means. But so they changed it years ago to the Canadian melody. It might be the Montreal melody, but I'm sure it's called the Canadian melody.
Milena and Lewis enter the lobby area of an apartment building.
Right. So there should be, is there a touch screen here?
There is, yes.
Okay.
Milena explores the intercom touchscreen with her hand.
Is this it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is what I mean, and this isn't the only building, but this is an example of what is going in. Things that go in here. Mm-hmm. Things that are going into a lot of the new buildings, and as we mentioned before, Halifax is construction. I think we have 50 buildings in process of being built as we speak.
Yes.
Minimum. So here we have this big screen. I'm here to visit Krista, but there's no buttons for anything. I'm touching the screens.
We're
Calling resident.
Uh-oh. Can we cancel that?
Krista leans in to cancel the intercom call to a resident.
Okay, so it's supposed to tell me it's calling a resident, but there's nothing for me to say where numbers are or anything. And the door just opened.
Yeah, someone just walked through.
Right. And so I'd be standing here forever or tapping things and calling people all over the place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And this is one of many.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time our provincial built environment, which is under the Accessibility Directorate of Nova Scotia, which will be implemented April 1, 2023, it will not be retroactive for buildings that are already built. But all new buildings as of April 1st, 2023 will not be permitted to have these. Or they can have them, but they have to have a voice activation so that, you can speak to it if you're blind or partially sighted. Let alone if you're, like you're somebody who has very limited use of your arms or fingers. And the thing about these touchscreens, a lot of them do come with programming that you can put in, that I've been finding out through friends that are helping me to research, but it's at an extra cost. Whether developers are being told this or not, that I don't know, I cannot say, but it's there. They can do it, but at this point it's probably going to cost them a significant chunk out of their pocket.
Milena comically fakes crying.
Anyway, I just
Milena,
wanted to
Krista,
share
and
that
Lewis
because
exit the lobby
it's my
outside.
biggest annoyance
Yeah,
besides the construction, and
for new buildings.
yeah, and it's been really difficult to push through to get people to listen, to change the building, codes, and let alone to let the developers know.
Yeah.
The thing I will say for developers is that they're unaware.
Yeah.
They haven't a clue.
Mhm.
So this building has a push button for someone who uses a wheelchair. Whether the door, when you push the button, is opening the right way or not, for someone who uses a wheelchair, I'm not the person to be asking.
Mhm.
I always leave that to the person who has a disability, their lived experience. But when it comes to the blind and partially sighted, we're quite often overlooked and forgotten because you look at something like, oh, I've done it, that looks good, that's easy enough for somebody with a stroller or a walker, but you forget that you cannot see. And I can guarantee you that over and over and over and over, it's happening constantly.
Yeah.
And people are like, I didn't think about it. It's just like there's an obstruction in the middle of a sidewalk. And sighted people, I'm not pooping on sighted people, don't misunderstand me, they'll walk around it. And they don't think anything of it because they have the capability to walk around it.
Yeah.
And, when I ask my sighted friends, they're like, oh yeah, I've been walking by this, whatever obstruction that was on the sidewalk for 2 months now. And they said, and you didn't want to tell me? I didn't even think about it. They didn't think about it. Not their fault, because I lie that I'm actually blind. Don't
I'm
edit
never
that.
cutting that out.
You want me to pop my eyeballs out?
Really no.
Which I had to do for my caseworker many years ago.
Oh my gosh.
But they kept sending me these stupid things to go to the eye doctor to prove I'm blind or whatever. Blah,
and you're
blah,
like,
blah.
listen.
I'm like, they're not coming back. They're fake eyes, okay? So I pop one out in the office. I'm like, okay, can we write this? Stop sending me the medical forms.
After exploring some everyday obstacles, Milena takes us to a construction site nearby in central Halifax to show us some more significant built environment hazards.
Yeah, let's cross. We get to the curb and we stop and we're crossing Seaforth.
Milena,
Turning
Krista, and
south.
Lewis cross to a gated-off closed sidewalk area.
We'd be coming up to this curb.
Their passage is blocked by a large chain-link fence.
Go right up onto the curb if we can, because there's a fence barrier here, and it's taking up the whole entire sidewalk.
A large van turns the corner very close to Krista and Milena.
And if I had my cane, so I have my guide dog, so Lewis would probably loop me around. Okay. So my cane actually, if you can get that. So my cane would actually, go under and then probably get stuck. I'd have to battle with this for a bit. But if I'm traveling with the dog, Lewis, let's go up forward. I would probably
Milena
be
and Lewis
looking
approach the
for
corner. A large van passes extremely close to Milena.
absolutely no sidewalk. So then, my other alternative will be to go back to Seaforth and turn right, travel a pretty long block, and then turn right again if I wanted to keep going south. And there's where the mobility issues come into play because, let's say, I'm with the walker, or I'm an elderly person and can't see well. That's a pretty big block to be walking extra.
Yeah.
So they've taken up, this construction site has taken up an entire block on the south side. They've taken up a significant block on, well, this would be the east side heading south as well. And if you're coming this way, you would have to go in completely opposite directions and take extra turns to go and walk around. There's only so much information I can give to my friends or acquaintances who are blind, who come through here, but I don't know who all comes through here, right? So if they were coming up the sidewalk up Oxford heading south, like I said, they, especially with your white cane, that they would be running into that fence and looking for where's that sidewalk. More than likely, you know, obviously they'd be a little bit more cautionary, but still thinking, where is that sidewalk? Because maybe they thought they veered over or whatever the case may be. They should have never encroached upon two sidewalks.
Yeah.
Never.
And the traffic coming couldn't see you either way. Like,
Exactly.
we were kind of hiding behind the fencing.
Yeah. The bigger problem is when we do this loop around here and we come up to the other side of this construction, which will be on North Street, one block over is Oxford School, which has primaries to grade 9. I know the primaries don't walk on the road, but the junior highs do.
Yeah.
They don't care about this barricade. And Oxford Street in particular, between 3 and 6, is bumper to bumper. It's not Toronto, Montreal, but it's Nova Scotia, Halifax. Bumper to bumper, people stopping in the middle of intersections, and kids are walking home because kids don't want to walk an extra block. They want to, if they live, you know, in the next house down the street over here, I'm pointing north. What junior high kid is going to want to walk 3 extra blocks to get home? None. They're gonna traverse down Oxford Street with the traffic.
Yeah. I know I would if I was in junior high.
Exactly. And that's why this part in particular made me extremely, extremely angry. It wasn't just about the fact that people who are blind and partially sighted, but we have kids here. Kids.
Yeah.
Milena, Krista, and Lewis proceed down the sidewalk along the other side of the construction site, facing onto Oxford Street.
And we pointed them to where we were in Yonge Street to have it done that way. It's a fairly decent job, could have been better. And the only reason we managed to get this temporary pedestrian sidewalk in is because they put a new manager from HRM in, and this particular man is really great and amicable to work with, but he can only fix what he can fix because things have already been written in prior to, 4 or 5 years ago, before this whole project started.
Milena, Krista, and Lewis approach the construction site from the Oxford Street
Again,
side.
for 2 years.
Krista stops them at another chain link barricade.
I'm just gonna take my cane. Oops, I don't want to hit you. Yeah. If I was using my cane,
Milena's cane taps at the gaps in the fence.
they in fact are missing the kick plates. So Blake, if you can see how my cane goes under here, there should be at least a 2x4 or something so that I don't run into that. If I wasn't familiar, I'd be taking the risk. Lewis, let's go left.
Milena and Lewis turn the corner into another temporary sidewalk.
And you're looking for, where is that? Lewis, let's go up. Okay. So, let's go up. Now, there is a ramp for a wheelchair, but as a white cane user, and I'm going to have to talk to said individual to put the kick plate so that they can trail from this fencing to here to indicate that there is something that you can actually go into, because all of this is missing. All of the kick plates, anything for your white cane, it's fairly easy to get stuck in. And if I was coming down the sidewalk heading west, I probably wouldn't even know that there was a ramp here, because there's not enough indication to tell me so. And again, great stuff for me to get my white cane stuck into. Okay, Lewis, let's go forward.
Milena and Lewis proceed ahead between the concrete barrier and the chain link fence.
Okay. So there is a Jersey border, which is what we like because it's cement. So if a car hits that, goodbye car. Lewis, let's go forward. Again, enough for a pedestrian, but as you can see, between the fencing and the Jersey border and Lewis and myself, if someone in the wheelchair was coming, we wouldn't fit. We can't win them all because we've got a busy street and they couldn't move any further, and bus lanes, it's a major bus route as well, so at least it's something, or we would have had nothing. So we'll carry on. Let's go, Lewis, up forward. And Blake, if you want to stop and take a look, right across the street is Oxford School. Full of kids. All right. Oop, let's go, up.
Milena and Lewis approach the end of the temporary protected sidewalk and are left walking into an intersection.
Now we're in the road. And they did not do that properly. Oops. Because Lewis was trying to find somewhere to get us.
Milena stops on a small safe patch on the curb.
Once we're done. No. Making a phone call.
You end up right in the street. There's no indication that that's the
exactly.
End of the walkway.
So there's no indication if you were using a white cane, you'd walk straight out. If there was no traffic, and because the traffic was flowing with me, that's where we went. Now, this wasn't Lewis's fault. It's not directed properly. There's no way to tell, and this is not enough of a curb to be stepping on safely. So we'll stop at this corner, which is the northeast corner. And when this project initially started, they had this fence, the link fence, blocking off the entire curb. And what ended up happening, I was coming from the west side and I crossed Oxford to here and hit the fence, and there was absolutely nowhere to go.
Jeez.
Nowhere to go. I was in the middle of the intersection. I was very angry.
Yes.
The one, I'll give this. So the developers there got away with almost bloody murder, but they had that development site agreed upon something like 15 years ago. So now we're at Summit.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the crosswalk.
And then this should be a zebra cross mark.
It is, yes.
Okay. All right. So because you're sighted, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
But if Blake will take a full view,
He's on the other side of the street
Okay.
doing that.
there's nothing to indicate for me
Mm-hmm.
or someone who can't see, who's blind or partially sighted or low vision.
Do you want to...
Yeah, let's cross. That there's a crosswalk here. I could risk getting crossed anyway, which I probably would because I'm familiar and it's traffic is low. But if you didn't know this neighborhood, you'd end up, if I can point going north and Blake can take the picture of the traffic lights, that's another 2 blocks up ahead.
Milena indicates another intersection far off in the distance.
So you keep going until you felt a tactile indicator,
Well,
or until you knew.
I knew that I was at Almond Street.
Okay.
And then let's say I lived on this particular block where we are now, then I'd have to come back here and get to my house.
Mm.
It's just a bunch of nonsense that can completely misdirect you.
Yeah.
And it's snowing, and if it's raining or whatever the case may be,
It's going to be more challenging.
yeah, it's even that much more distracting.
Having explored some of the barriers facing individuals with blindness or low vision in her neighborhood, Milena takes us back to her apartment.
So, is there anything that you would like the audience or the general public to know about building around in Halifax, or about navigating as a person who is blind or low vision?
Milena and Lewis stand again in front of her apartment building.
Heavy question.
Yes.
Anything for people to know about Halifax? For traveling, and for anyone as pedestrians, actually, if you're someone who's sighted or able-bodied and you see an obstruction on the sidewalk, don't just walk by it. Snap a picture. Take that picture, send it to 311. And the more you report this, the more we fix it, and the more city council and developers will know that this is not the way to be building our city. For developers to remember accessibility does not mean just a ramp for someone who uses a wheelchair, and I've had permission from my wheelchair friends to say that, that you must consider all people with all disabilities, and quite often those of us who are blind and partially sighted are the last to be thought of, because people forget how important their eyes are, and sight is quite selfish, that you're not really paying attention to what you're actually seeing until perhaps it's too late and you see someone like myself who's blind or partially sighted in the middle of an intersection because they can't get up on a safe sidewalk. So, just think, it's actually not too difficult. Solutions are there. Technology is there, for example, with the touchscreen entrance systems, that technology is there to make sure that someone who's blind or partially sighted can get in. It's all at your hands. And all you have to do is reach out to an organization or a person with specific disabilities to find out. It ain't that difficult, people.
Milena smiles as the picture fades to black. To report built environment obstacles in Halifax, call 311 or email contact us at 311.halifax.ca. To have your say in future built environment projects, visit shapeyourcityhalifax.ca. A white title card featuring the Reachability Line in green, pink, and blue, along with the National Accessibility Week logo and green, pink, and blue accents, fades to black.